Unseen Love, a story of betrayal and redemption. Ethan Carter had spent years building his dream. As a successful entrepreneur in Austin, Texas, he had turned a small tech startup into a multi-million-dollar company. His work was his passion, a testament to his relentless drive and discipline. Since childhood, he had been fascinated by technology, how innovation could change lives. He spent hours coding, designing, and dreaming of a future where he'd create something extraordinary. That dream became CarterTech, a company known for its cutting-edge cybersecurity solutions. By 37, he had everything: wealth, prestige, a luxurious home, and of course, Olivia, his wife of 5 years, 4 years younger than him. Radiant and ambitious in her own right. They had met at a conference when he was still climbing the corporate ladder. Olivia was magnetic, brilliant, confident, and charming. Their connection had been instant, their love story the kind that people envied. But Ethan believed in hard facts, and love, as he would soon learn, was rarely based on logic. It started subtly. Late nights at work that became too frequent. Secretive text messages. A shift in her gaze when he spoke to her. Ethan, a man who thrived on control, suddenly felt like a stranger in his own life. Doubt crept in, like a virus in his perfectly coded world. Then, one evening, as Olivia stood in the kitchen, her phone buzzed. He wasn't the type to pry until he saw her face pale. Ethan never acted without proof. He was meticulous. He spent weeks gathering evidence, tracing phone records, watching for patterns. And then, one night, he found what he was looking for. A dinner reservation. For 2. At the same restaurant where they had celebrated their anniversary last year. That was the moment his love for Olivia fractured into something unrecognizable. But Ethan wasn't a man to confront things emotionally. He was a strategist. He didn't scream. He didn't argue. Instead, he devised a plan. A quiet, methodical dismantling of the world Olivia thought she had control over. And when he was done, she wouldn't even realize she had lost. Ethan spent the next few days refining his plan. He wasn't just going to expose Olivia. He was going to make her regret underestimating him. First, he needed to confirm the man she was seeing. It didn't take long. Nathan Hayes, a financial consultant. Handsome, confident, the type of man who thrived on being the center of attention. Predictable. Ethan smiled coldly. He had spent years designing cybersecurity systems that could expose vulnerabilities with surgical precision. People were no different. He dug into Nathan's past, found discrepancies in his financial records, a few buried complaints about insider trading. Nothing proven, but enough to raise suspicion if the right people started asking questions. Then, he turned his attention to Olivia. She had always loved luxury. The designer bags, the weekend spa retreats, the 5-star vacations, all funded by him. But what she didn't know was that their shared bank accounts, they weren't so shared anymore. A quiet transfer of funds. A few adjustments to their joint credit cards. A subtle, controlled financial blackout. She wouldn't notice immediately, but when she did, she'd feel it. And then, for the final step, the confrontation, he arranged everything. A dinner reservation. Same time, same place Olivia and Nathan had planned to meet. Except, when Olivia arrived, it wasn't Nathan waiting for her. It was Ethan. Her face drained of color. Surprised? Ethan asked, his voice calm. He slid a manila folder across the table. I'd open it if I were you. With trembling hands, Olivia picked it up. Her eyes darted over the documents, bank statements, messages, screenshots of Nathan's shady deals. What is this? She whispered. Ethan leaned back, studying her. It's the beginning of the end. For you. For him. For whatever this was. He gestured vaguely between them. Oh, and Nathan? He's about to have a very bad week. SEC investigations tend to do that. Olivia froze. You wouldn't... I already did. Ethan smiled, but there was no warmth, just finality. He stood, dropped a set of divorce papers on the table, and walked out. And just like that, Olivia Carter ceased to exist in his world. For the first time in years, Ethan felt free. No more lies, no more deception. Just him, his work, and an empty space he wasn't sure how to fill. Until he met Isla Monroe. She was unlike anyone he had ever encountered. Beautiful, but not in an obvious way. She carried herself with quiet confidence, uninterested in attention or validation. And that intrigued him, because women had always chased Ethan. They admired his success, his presence. Isla, however, she barely noticed him, and that got under his skin. Ethan had expected attraction to come easily, a simple pursuit. But with Isla, it was different. She didn't play games, and she didn't fall for charm. One evening, they crossed paths at a gallery event. She was studying a painting, completely unaware of his gaze. "You don't belong here," she said suddenly, without turning. Ethan raised a brow. "Oh, and why is that?" She finally met his eyes. "Because men like you don't stop to appreciate art. They buy it, like a trophy." Ethan smirked. "And what kind of man am I, exactly?" She tilted her head, assessing him. The kind who's used to getting what he wants. For the first time in a long time, Ethan laughed. And in that moment, he knew. This woman would change everything. An unlikely connection. Ethan had been with many women before, but Isla was different. She didn't fall for his usual charm, didn't seem affected by his wealth or status. And that fascinated him. Their conversations were sharp, filled with unspoken challenges. She made him think. She wasn't just beautiful, she was brilliant. One night, after another unexpected meeting at a mutual friends event, Ethan decided to test her. "You seem to enjoy making assumptions about me," he said, handing her a glass of wine. Isla took it with a smirk. "I enjoy being right." Ethan chuckled. "Then let me make one about you." She leaned against the balcony railing, curiosity flashing in her green eyes. "Go ahead." He studied her. "You pretend not to care about attention, but you're used to it. Men probably fall all over themselves trying to impress you." She didn't deny it. Instead, she tilted her head. "And yet, you're not doing that." Ethan shrugged. No point in chasing someone who doesn't want to be caught. For the first time, Isla hesitated. She had expected him to try harder, to be like all the others, desperate for her validation. But Ethan, he wasn't playing by the same rules. And that unnerved her. It wasn't long before their conversations turned into late-night meetings, walks through the city, dinners that stretched into early mornings. For the first time in a long time, Ethan wasn't thinking about his past. He was just living. A proposal unlike any other month's past. Ethan had never felt this way before. It wasn't just attraction. It was trust. It was real. He wanted to build something with Isla. Something lasting. One evening, over dinner at a secluded restaurant, Ethan set down his glass and looked at her seriously. "I want to build something for us," he said. Isla raised a brow. "Like what?" "A home." He leaned forward. "Not just any home. Something designed from the ground up. A place that's ours." She blinked, caught off guard. "You want to build a house?" Ethan nodded. "Not just a house. Our home. A place that has no ghosts, no past, no memories of anyone else. Just you and me." For the first time since they met, Isla was speechless. And for the first time in his life, Ethan was certain. This was the woman he wanted forever. Ethan wasn't a man who did things halfway. When he decided to build their dream home, he went all in. A 2-story modern masterpiece, designed with Isla in mind. She had always loved the idea of a library with floor-to-ceiling windows, so he built one. She had mentioned once that she loved gardens with fountains, so he designed a private courtyard just for her. When he finally took her to the finished house, her breath caught. "This is ours?" she whispered. Ethan slid an arm around her waist. "Every inch of it." She turned to him, emotion in her eyes. "You really built all of this? For us?" Ethan smiled. "I built it for you." She exhaled shakily, then laughed. "You know, when we first met, I thought you were just another arrogant businessman." He smirked. "And now?" She cupped his face. "Now I know. You're the man I've been waiting for." Ethan kissed her, the past fading away completely. This was his fresh start. Their fresh start. And this time, he knew he had finally built something that would last forever.